Hey developers, imagine that you want to create a Vue component and share it with others. We're going to accomplish this by using the Vue plugin system. We're going to create a component that allows us to upload images and to display those images, and then we're going to add the plugin system to test it, and we're going to use the Vite build system to be able to build it. And then at the end, we're going to actually publish our brand new package to the NPM registry, and we're going to pull it down in a new application and test it out there. So we are going through the idea of creating a component, adding it as a plugin, and publishing it to the NPM registry. So sit back and make sure you watch this all the way to the end. Hey, and if you could do me a favor, make sure you click that like button. And I usually don't mention this, but I do offer one-on-one coaching. So if you are interested in getting to learn more about web development or learning more about Vue, React, Angular, I'll put a link in the description. You can check it out, you can sign up, and maybe I can help you out and we can talk. Let's jump into the video. Here is our starter Vue app that we're going to work with today as we go through this tutorial. I just want to say I created this using the command line. I use the npm init Vue at latest. Then I chose the options to turn on TypeScript and ESLinting. And then after that, I just did a little bit of cleanup. The only thing I really did was I deleted all the extra components that we're not going to be using. I deleted everything in the app view file as well. And then I also went into the tsconfig and turned strict null checks on or to false. That way I didn't complain about null values. So what I think probably the best bet when you're creating a new plugin is to first create it without creating the plugin part. So create the component first, test it out locally, and then add in the plugin parts. To do this and to start, I'm going to create a new file in the components folder, and we're going to call it special upload.vue. To make sure that everything's fine while we're working in it, I'm going to import it into my app view file. So I'm going to import in special upload from, and we're in the components / special upload. And then I'm just going to display it right here. So special upload. I kind of prefer doing the kind of kebab casing here instead of the camel casing when we're doing with Vue components. You know, your mileage may vary. All right, so let's go back into the special upload, and we're going to use script setup throughout this app. And also I want to add in TypeScript for the language. And first I want to just make sure it works. So I'm going to put an H1 here, and I think we're going to call it file uploader. We're just going to, I don't know, call it file uploader here. Cool, so it's working as I expected. So let's add in some basic HTML, CSS. If you're not interested about this, you can go ahead and fast forward. Essentially what we're trying to create is a component that you can upload a file to, and then the image file will be displayed on the page. That's essentially what we want to create. So I'm going to create image uploader. I know a lot of people always say that I should do more videos like this doing HTML, CSS. So I don't know, this might be interesting for you guys. So I'm going to bring it down here, and then I'm going to create an input. It's going to be type, I think it's file. Well, the ID file upload. Name equals file up, there it is, file upload. And I want to make sure it accepts image star. And I want to add in another class called your file, another div. And I'll do an image source, and we'll add that in a minute. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's do a little bit of styling on this. On the image uploader, yeah, I'm going to have display flex, justify content. You know, actually I want to do flex direction column, and align items center. And then we'll do border 1 pixel solid gray, width 55%, background color eggshell. I like that color. Margin, we're gonna just put it in the middle. height 300 pixels, and then the box shadow RGBA 0.0.0. The alpha layer of that, 4 pixels, 4 pixels, 12 pixels. Let's see what it looks like. All right. It's gonna look kind of weird because I'm on a smaller screen. I don't know if I make it a little bigger. Yeah, I think I like that. Just a little too small there. That's fine. Let's do your file. Your file. Display flex. Justify content center. Align items center. And a margin top 20 pixels. Okay, by the way, if I make this a little smaller and then I bring this back over. Okay, that looks good. We don't have anything in your file, but assuming we have, let's add in just, I don't know, a random one here. source.unsplash.com/random. There it is. Okay, it's ginormous. So we'll probably need to adjust the image size. Image, let's just do width 25%. Okay, there we go. Really small now, but it works. Okay, awesome. So now we have a basic template here, but we don't have any logic. So we want to be able to click here, this choose file, and you can see here I have some random pictures. So I want to click on it and I want it to display where this image is here, where I have this placeholder. So I'll delete the placeholder right now and I'll save it. And so I think what we need to do is add some more functionality to this really basic component. So first I'm going to import in some ref and inject from Vue. We're not going to use the inject right away, but I'm going to show you guys how we can use that in a little bit. So since we're using the script setup, I want to grab props. I'm going to grab the props from here. I'm going to use the define props. And this is going to be like an interface. And custom image string. So I want people to be able to pass in a image into the component and have it be displayed. And if I did that right, oh, looks like I got an error here. Oh, I need to, this needs to be, I always mess this up. This needs to be this, and then like that. Cool, so now I can receive a prop in, but we want to do something with that prop. So I'm going to create something called image source. And I'm going to have that be a ref. And I'm just going to assume that it's going to be the props.custom image. You can see here TypeScript's working as I expect it. And I want to add a function that does something during the file upload. And I'm going to add another function that does something while we process the file. So I'm going to put this in 2 different places. And we're going to assume that it grabs a file. This file upload, because it doesn't really turn anything. Okay, so for file upload, we want it for this input here. So we're going to do at change, we're going to call the file upload. And now it should work. So now we can put something in the file upload. We have, the file upload should have an event. It's type event. And then I'm going to grab the target and I'm going to do event.target as HTML input element. So this way, by the way, you have to do this inference here. Otherwise, it doesn't realize that target's there correctly. Then we want to get the file from it. It's actually an array of files. So I'm going to grab the first one. And then I'm going to pass that on to the file process file. And normally if I was just kind of doing this really, for the first time, I'd put a bunch of console logs, but just to speed up the pace of this video, we're just going to continue on from here. So in the file process, kind of the goal of the file process is it's really only one line, but we could do a lot more things. I just kind of wanted to break it up. But I want to grab the image source .value and have it, because remember it's a ref, and I'm going to have it URL.create object URL file. And that should take the file information, the first file they select, and set it to this image source value, which now we can do this. We can bind this to the image source. So if we did this all correctly, we should be able to choose a file. I'll choose my banner. Cool. So you can see it's coming up here. It's a little small. I don't know. Maybe we should bump it up to 50%. I don't know, 60. How about 70? Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So now we have this file uploader. You can choose a file. It displays it as we expect it to. And then we can also pass a custom image into it. Well, you have to pass the custom image into it, and then it displays here. So if we go back to our app view, well, let me rephrase that. There's a couple of different ways this works. First, you can use the file uploader to show an image, or you can pass an image in. So if I refresh this, there's no image, but if I go to the app view, I should be able to pass it in. So by the way, it looks like it already detects the custom image since we're using TypeScript. And I can pass a string to it. And I guess I could just do it here, const URL. And we'll do the same thing we did before, source.unsplashRandom. And now I just need to pass in that URL. Cool. And there it is. It looks like the height sometimes breaks. So maybe I should set like a max height on this. Max height of, I don't know, 400 pixels. Let's see what would happen there. I don't know, it still like breaks the top. Let's see if we do 200. Okay, that seems to work better. Now it's not breaking out of it as much. Cool. So now we have a very simple image uploader that displays image in this file uploader screen. Not too fancy, but I think this is enough for us to continue on. It has a little box shadow, has a little eggshell whiteness to it, but it works. So the next thing I want to show you guys is how to create some export files and how to create the plugin. And by the way, if you're interested in this script setup, I've done a bunch of videos on it. You can find it here. Just go ahead and click on it. You can learn all about script setup and also some tips and tricks on Vue. So we have this component, but we haven't done one of the most important things is to create the plugin. So we're going to create some new files here. First, in this components folder, I like to create an export file. So I'm going to create an index.ts file. And what this is going to do is it's going to export this component in such a way that we can use it elsewhere, and you can import it in elsewhere. So I'm going to call it special uploader from /special upload. Well, I'll call it special upload without the ER. So now we have this special upload, and the next thing to do is let's see if we can create the plugin file. So if we go back here in the source, I want to create a new file. I'm going to call it Vue plugin.ts. Cool. And what this file is, it's going to be the entry point for the plugin system, and also anytime we use this library, we can it'll look at this file. It's basically like the main entry point. And so we want to grab a few things out of here. First, we're going to grab in this app from Vue. And then we want to import in this special upload from components. Export default. And we're going to do this install. And so typically inside Vue, when you create plugins, you can kind of do it a couple different ways. So the first way is you can import it in or use it inside your main TS file. And to do that, you have to kind of create this install hook. And what this will do is we can use this plugin, import it in, and then we don't have to import every single individual component. It'll all be there for use. And I'll explain more how that works in a moment. But to do this, I'm going to create an app. It's going to be a type app, and then I'm going to create options. So you can always do options too, and I'm going to set this up as an image type string. And I'll do an arrow function, and now this is basically when this starts running, it will work. And import type, I guess. There we go. Now in here, I'm going to do app.component. And inside this component here, I'm going to call it special, let's see here, special upload. I'll call it special uploader. Yeah, that's fine. Special uploader. And we're going to use special upload. Nice. And then what we can do is we can do another thing I really like to do is I want this option here. So I want people, when they initialize this plugin, to also be able to pass in, if they want, they don't have to, this options array. And they can pass in an image so it automatically displays as soon as it loads up. And you can do this without using the props. And the way I want to do that is with this provide and inject pattern. So I'm going to do app provide, and this means this is kind of a special function for these plugins that you can inject. You can provide things with them. You can inject inside your app and do some configuration for it. So I'm going to call it special upload image, and then I'm going to do options.image. So that's all it's doing is whatever the option is, it's passing it in. And then I also, if people don't want to install this as a plugin and they just want to import it in, I want to be able to accommodate them so they can export special upload. Maybe I am, to be consistent, I'm going to call it special uploader everywhere. And so if I go back to my, let's see here, back into the components index. Let's see here, I get special default special uploader. So now if I go back to my viewer plugin file, I just want to change this to uploader as well. Okay, I think I got the naming right. So I get the special uploader, I have now my plugin, and now I also have exporting just the component if people want to import the component in by itself. So at this point, I'd actually, even before I create the package or I build it, I can just test it locally inside here as a plugin and not just as a component I'm importing in. So the way I like to do that is I go to the main TS file, and I like to change this around a little bit. So we know that we can do this. You can do app, create app mount, but a lot of people don't know you can do app.use, and this is where you put your plugins in. So if you've ever used Pinya, or if you used router file and you've add that in manually, you always have to go to this app.use and kind of add it in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import in, and I'm going to call it viewer. And if you remember correctly from our viewer plugin, we have this export default, which is different than this named export. So we should be able to do this. I'm going to call it viewer, and you can call this whatever you want, viewer plugin from .viewer plugin, and then I can just pass in viewer plugin here. And I typed it in wrong. And you can see right now there's some issues. I don't see anything, but if I go back to the app view and I get rid of this, and let's see here, I'm going to restart it. Let me see what's wrong here real quickly. We're going to go to console. Oh, cannot read property of undefined read image. So I know what's happening here. So if we go back to our main TS file, or our viewer plugin file, that is. Right here, if you don't pass anything in, it doesn't know what's there. So I believe we need to set a default. Yeah, I'll do a default here. So we'll just have image equal blank. So that way, if nothing's there, it won't give any errors. And so now I'm seeing it run, but I don't see anything yet. So let's see if I can get this working. So we have special uploader. I'm gonna go back to my app view. I have special upload, so I'm gonna call it uploader. Invalid end tag. Oops, let's come back over here because I remember changing the name. All right, cool. So here it is working as expected. I'm still passing in the source here. You see here, I'm not even actually importing it in. It's just grabbing it because it's a plugin file from the main TS file. Since I loaded in this plugin, every single component that we set up in this install now is available throughout the app, and we don't have to import it in, which is really neat. Let's see if we can get this options images thing working too. So let's go back to our app view, and I don't want to send in this prop. So you can see here, it doesn't load anything, and I'll just close this. So yeah, so nothing's loaded, but I should be able to pass it in through here too as an option. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna call it const URL, and we're gonna do source. You know, maybe we should do a different one. Let's see here. If I viewer plugin, and I'm using GitHub Copilot here. So now I have to put in some sort of random image. I wonder if Copilot will see here, random image. Hey, look, it did. It found one called random image. So if you don't know, Copilot is in beta right now. I have it, and sometimes it just looks and tries to think what you want. So I typed in random image, and it found this. So I'm going to type in random image, and it's at 200 by 300. Let's see what that does. So I don't see anything in my random image, but let's inspect and see if I see any errors. Going to the console. No errors. I wonder if it actually had it in there. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to look, image uploader, image, input your file. Okay, I don't see anything in here. Oh, so the next thing we need to do, since I'm not seeing it, is we can go back into the actual special uploader. And you see out here, I'm only grabbing data from the props, the custom image, but I'm not grabbing anything through that provide and inject. And remember, I added this inject to here, and I never did anything with it. So we should be able to add the inject, and it has to have the same name as we had there. So let's see here. If we do const, we call URL. I'm going to call, since I want to be able to do both, I'm going to call this image val. I'm going to say, okay, first check to see if there's a custom image. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do const image. I'm going to inject. It has to be that same name, special upload image. Is that what we called it? Let's double check. Let's see here. I'm going to save it for a second, and then we're going to back to the main file. Actually, back into the viewer plugin file. We call it special upload image. Okay, so we're making progress. Special upload image. And now we should have access to this, and I just want to cast it as a string. Now, image val, I want to say first you want to do the image, otherwise do the prop. So if you injected it in an image, then do that one, otherwise use the props. And then inside here, I'm going to do the image val. Okay, there we go. So now we have our picture here. So it's grabbing it. This is the random one from that Pixum website. Cool, so I see the random images coming in. If I go back to our main TS file, it should be the same thing if I just typed in this Pixum photos. Awesome. So now we have both in there, and it's working as expected. So the next thing we need to do is be able to build this as an actual plugin and be able to submit this to NPM and publish it. So let's do that next. Let's take a look at our Vite config. So the idea being that Vite is its own build system. It's pretty powerful. So we want to use it to create this component and be able to share it with everyone using NPM and publish it as a package. So the first thing we need to do is set up Vite so it'll work correctly. And here's the default Vite file. There's not too much to it. So we want to do two things in this Vite file. First, we want to set up the build. And second, we want to set up types so we can actually have types. And that way, when we import this into our application, that we can see the types correctly. There's a couple of really good TypeScript packages that work up with Rollup. So Rollup works with Vite. Basically, it's kind of under the hood that helps bundle everything together. And we want to use the Rollup plugin with TypeScript to do it. Now, I've kind of tried a few of these in the past, and I like this one called TypeScript 2. So I want to install that. So you do npm I, and then we'll do we'll called Rollup plugin TypeScript 2-D, and this will install the developer dependency of this Rollup plugin TypeScript 2. And if you do have any questions on this, I'll put a link in the description below to the whole package so you can kind of look through the code through there as well. Cool. So now we have that installed. I'm going to run the server again. And let's set up first the TypeScript. So then we'll set up the build. So in this plugins, I'm going to add in, well, first I want to import in TypeScript 2 from Rollup plugin TypeScript 2. And in here, we're going to call it TypeScript 2. It's going to be a big ol' option there, a big ol' object, that is. And I'm going to check equals false. I'm going to include, and this is the folder that we want to have it build the TypeScript files from, or the definition files. And by the way, those of you who are really familiar with TypeScript already know that you can build the type definition files yourself just using the command line and using the TypeScript compiler. But I like to do like this because it has a few more extra options and I don't have to set up my package.json to like run this command to create all these definition files and copy them to the right place and everything. So if you go here, we want to make sure our folder is in source components star.vue. So we're going to look at all the Vue files. And then we're going to have some tsconfig overrides. And by the way, a lot of this is documented in the TypeScript 2 information, so you don't have to memorize all this. But these are the ones I like to do, and this is ones I'm doing on some of my open source packages. So I'm going to do compiler options. We're going to do source map equals true. We're going to use declaration true, and then declaration map is also going to be true. And then we can set up an exclude so we don't include anything we don't want in here. And so we don't want it to do the vite.config ts file, and we don't want it to do the main.ts file. Actually, I think the main's fine. Just this one. And if we did that right, it looks like we have an error. So we'll just have to check to see if we have one too little, comma here. Let's see here. Come back over here. And let's see here, like this. There we go. So now we have, and I misspelled declaration map, declaration, T-I-O-N, A-T-I-O-N, A-T-I-O-N, declaration. There we go. I was misspelling that. I have the exclude here. So that should be it for the generating the TypeScript files, but we really obviously want it to build. And this is going to be another big object that we need to put in here. So we're going to put in build. And in the build, we're going to have CSS code split. So if you have this on as false, it's going to create a separate style.css file that you can then import in outside of your package. So the package could, you have to import that style in. I've kind of gone back and forth if I like this is turned on or off. So if somebody doesn't want to have the styles, you may want to have this on false. Let's go and begin by leaving it on false, and then we can specifically import it in. If you don't want that, you can leave it on true. So I'm gonna have a live folder, and I'll make this a little easier to see. In the live folder, I need to add a few things. Entry, this is where it's going to grab the entry file, and we called it viewer plugin.ts, I believe. Let's see here, viewer plugin, yep. And then we need the formats, and I believe it just defaults to ESM, which is the ECMAScript module format, but we can do CJS too, and I think that's important because if you use this plugin with like a Vite Vue CLI application, an older Vue CLI application, I believe it works better if you use it with CJS. So I always do both CJS and ES for mine. And then I want to put the name. I'm going to call it viewer plugin. And then I can do this file name thing here, file name. And this just tells it like what to call the files when they generate for the ESM modules and everything else. So I'm going to, I'm going to check to see if it's ES. Okay, I just tabbed there and it auto-completed for me. But it basically says if it's ES, do index.js. And actually I want this CJS. I think that's what I wanted. Yep. And then we want a couple more options. We're going to do this rollup options. And this is going to tell me, we have to tell it not to bundle Vue in when it builds. If you don't do this, first the build is going to be huge because it's bundling Vue in there. It's going to be bigger than it should be. And also when you try to import in the plugin to your app using NPM, you're going to get weird errors about vnode and vnode symbol errors because it's trying to load Vue twice. So always make sure that you externalize Vue, meaning that it's not going to bundle Vue in because it's going to be imported into a Vue app. So you want to make sure we do that. And I always do this output, and this right here just sets this globals object, and this is recommended by the Vue plugin guide, so I do it. I'm not really sure what it does, but there we are. So this should, if I did this correctly, create the TypeScript files and build it for us. So let's just test out the build. So I'm going to run npm run build, and then we'll troubleshoot any bugs we see. Okay, cool. Transforming means it created all the type definitions that we need. And it looked like it created the CJS and EJS files. We can check it creates this dist folder. We'll close some of these. But you can hear this dist folder, and here they are. We have index.cjs, JS, and then we have some TypeScript files, including the compile file. So awesome. So it looks like it worked correctly, which is great. So the next thing we need to do is see if we can update our package.json and see if we can actually upload this to the NPM registry and try it out in an app. Okay, we successfully built our app, but now we want to actually publish it to the NPM registry and use it in a different app. So I'm going to open up the package.json, and first I need to add in some more information in here so that way it works with our different types of Vue apps out there, and also it knows where everything is. So first I want to make sure we have a version number, so we're going to start with 001. And then I need to add in a few other things. I'm going to add this type module. And then I'm going to add in this exports. And so different types of package managers, build tools likes this export, so I always add it in. So what this basically, it just gives you, it tells whatever we're using, Vite or Vue CLI or whatever, where these files are located at. So we're going to say the main file to use is this dist.index.js. And then I always tell it where the styles is. And if we look in here, so we had that CSS code split to false. It actually did create the style.css, which has all our styles in it. So we want to make sure that we can do this. And so we're going to say styles.css, and then that's going to map to dist/style.css. Remember, make sure you don't put an S here. It is style.css, not styles.css. And then I always put this browser one in here too for compatibility issues. And this one has going to basically the same thing. I'm going to make sure if someone looks at styles.css, it goes to the .dist style.css folder. And then you have to tell where the types are, the type definition files. And we do dist. And once again, this is going to be the viewer plugin.d.ts. And I can double check that in my dist folder. Viewer plugin.d.ts. Okay, that looks right. So it should find the types. And then I put a license in. I'm going to put in Apache 2.0. And then the last thing I want to do is I'm going to tell it explicitly what files to use. And I just want the dist. And if I did that right, this is everything we need to tell NPM and different package, basically different bundlers and Vue CLI and Vite where all our files are. So that way, when we publish this to the registry, everything should hypothetically work. Cool. So the next thing to do is just go ahead and do it. So what you can do is, I'm not going to show you here, but if you go to the NPM website, you can create a new account. It's 100% free. And then after you get that, you do NPM login. I'm already logged in, but type in NPM login, ask for your username and password, and then you'll be logged in. And so once you do that, you just need to type in NPM publish. And this should create a tarball and then upload it to the registry. Cool. So now I have viewer image view 0.0.1 in the NPM registry. And you can even, if you want to, you can look it up by going to npmjs.com package and then looking at it. So I'm going to go viewer.image.view. Sometimes it takes a moment to actually be in the registry, but here it is. Here is my viewer image view. It was just published a few seconds ago, and it's showing my README, which is just the default README in here. Obviously, if this was a production app, I'd want to change this to something real. But cool. And then it says there's like total 14 files, and it should be working. So now let's go ahead and test it. So I went ahead and before I started this video, I created another Vue app, this one right here. And once again, it's a new Vue app out of the box, and I just deleted a few things in it. So just a hello world test app. So what we want to do here is install this new package that we just created. So I'm going to do npm I, and we called it, you can just copy this, viewer image. And if I did this right, it should install. Now we have to install it as a dependency, not a dev dependency, because we're going to be using it. And let me just make sure I didn't break anything. It's not going to show anything different right now. Okay, cool. So it started. We don't have any errors here. And what I need to do now is see if we can get this new package. Now it's in our package.json, this viewer image view to work. And let's try it first by just installing it as a plugin, kind of like we did in our test app. So I'm going to import the viewer plugin from, and we're going to call it, it's just like we said, it's viewer-image-view, viewer-image-view, and then we should be able to do app.use viewer plugin. Once again, nothing's changed here, but if we go into our app view, we don't have to import it in, it should just be there. Viewer, and we called it, I think we have to call it special uploader, because that was the name of the component. Save it, refresh it. Okay, so here it is. It's showing up as we expected, but you notice there's none of that CSS. It just shows file uploader. So to get that CSS loaded, we can do it a couple of different ways, but in our main file, we can import this. We'll do it viewer Yep, viewer-image-view-styles.css. If we did that right, cool. Now here's our styles. If we choose a random picture, banner, cool. So it's working. And then we can also do it a different way too. If I didn't want to use this app use, let's leave the style import in, but now it's not working as we expected. But if we go over here, and now we should be able just to import in the special uploader directly from the package. Uploader from this viewer image view. And if I save it, it's back working again. And I should be able to pass an image to it. And you can see right here, if I hit colon, I see custom image already. So we know that our TypeScript definitions are working. And if we try to put in 0 or something, it's going to give us a message. But let's go ahead and put in, let's try that URL, const URL, and put in back sort https source.unsplash.com/random and URL here. And I did this wrong, https. And now loads, and now you get a random image. Awesome. So we have created in this video a component, a viewer image component that you can upload files from your own computer and display them. We were able to build it with Vite and then publish it to the NPM registry and then test it out in a completely new app, and everything is working correctly. So if this video was helpful for you, please leave a comment below. Let me know. Thanks.